Cool. Yeah. Starting off in 10th place, we have the Hen House. So they were predicted 10th. They got 10th. So they were even with their predictions. They were one of only two teams that were even with their predictions, actually. So we had Cyberant, ACO, Rooster, Sea Dog, and IBB. Yeah, who wants to take away the Hen House? And just talk a little bit about like how they played, how they went. Stand-up players, and maybe some things they can improve on.
I mean, I guess I could start out this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, for obviously, like, there's the big obvious thing. I feel like they didn't quite have the experience with the comp, with the whole Helios Pro thing, the new maze, the fact that their team was a little bit of a just like mismatch in the start. It took them a little bit to actually get together, but for what they did, they really tried though. So Cyberant and Rooster, they were leading the defense and the attack respectively from what I got out of them. And they were trying to keep games standard for the most part, just go with a 3-2. They did try a few other strats in here and there throughout the round robin, but yeah, it was just interesting trying to get them to come together. And Rooster did actually injure her ankle earlier in the comp, which did cause them to swap out who was attacking and who was defending. Yeah, so
at what point did that happen? Was that like deep into the comp, or
it was night one. It was
okay.
I think about game 3 or 4.
Well,
she was initially leading the attack. Yeah.
Yeah, if someone's gonna roll their ankle and you're gonna have to make a change to the how the team's structured, you want it to be done in the first few games, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
That might be a tender topic later on down the track there, Ryan. There's a couple of injuries that
this is just the foreshadowing, you know.
Yeah.
All right, I might regret what I said. We'll find out.
But they did actually pull off a couple of upsets in the round robin, I believe, against some of the stronger teams, and ended up finishing 8th above both the Nameless and Dysfunctional. But then just in their Ascension game to get out of the wooden spoon, they kind of misplayed the start from what I was told. And then they couldn't figure out how to play on from that, and just sort of led to their demise in that last game, which was a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, it's hard for even like good teams to if you start off like not with a great start, it's really hard to claw back. That's unfortunate. It always happens. It's like you chill until the game that really matters, and then everything just bloody goes out the window, and you're like, bloody hell.
Yeah, they did come into the game with some confidence because they knew that they had pulled wins out over those two teams specifically. Yeah. So it was just a bit of a shame once they got into the game and things started going awry. They couldn't quite figure out how to claw it back.
Are these players that are we gonna be going to nationals? Are they going to be playing together? Like, what's the sitch with these guys?
None of these players are going to nationals this year. Might expect to see some of them potentially next year, depending on where it is.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed about the New Zealand situation.
Yeah, that old chestnut, huh? Did Popeyes or Sega? Did you have any personal experience with the team that you can enlighten us with?
Yeah, look, 100%. I think just coming into this comp day one, obviously, I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and wanting to meet everyone. Just seeing Cyber, he really seemed to he was having some really good games. Just every time I come up against him, I was like, oh, okay, I'm having to look at how some players play or hold angles and stuff like that. Like everything that I was watching, you could tell that he was a seasoned player, at least with the equipment or at least in the maze. And I honestly think the rest of the team would either there for fun or to have a learning experience or both. I remember coming out of one game in particular and Akko came up to me and she was like, I honestly don't care that we got flogged in that game, but what I do care about is the fact that I saw how you guys were breaking in and I learned why you're breaking in, and I'm going to personally try and do better to ensure that that doesn't happen again. So I think they were just really using it as a learning experience, and yeah, hopefully we see a lot of these guys either in Nats or further invites.
Yeah, that's sick. I think it's really important for teams, no matter what level you play at, to set an expectation of like realistically what you want to get out of it and what you can get out of it. Like if you go into a comp as a team with a bunch of newer players and you're going up against like really powerful Hobart teams, Cobra teams and stuff, not obviously not full Cobras, but you know, I think that I wonder if they had a full discussion about expectations and they were like, yeah, this comp's going to be getting really hard. Let's just make the most of it. And I think, yeah, I think that's something that any team could learn from. Because if you go into a competition without like realistic expectations, or I don't know, even if you just like don't communicate it properly within your team, that's when you can have you know, you lose the games and everyone starts screaming at each other and stuff, and you know what I mean? And then you got like this downward spiral and stuff. I think it all comes from not having realistic expectations about you know, what you can get out of the tournament. So that's really cool to hear that seems like this team were, you know, pretty they did that. They knew what they wanted to get out of it. They were learning as much as they could, absorbing information and just having a good old time. Trader, did you have anything you wanted to, or Popeye, sorry, did you have anything you wanted to add to this team?
I'll nothing really for me. Probably the one thing I'd mention is this is probably the strongest bottom team we've ever had. Yeah, I'll keep it short and try and get that all 1 hour 30 that we're going for.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cool. Well, yeah, was Cyberant everyone's standout player for this team based on like the stats and stuff, or did you guys have a different standout player?
I think maybe Sea Dog as well has been crushing it for his grade. He was at E last year.
Yeah.
D now. I'm not sure if we moved him up to C or not. But yeah, he seems to be doing well.
I was just talking with Cyberant a little earlier before the stream, and they seem to think their Echo was the MVP. Just
Yeah, fair.
with their desire, their drive to learn everything, and how they played in the games with like communication and whatnot. Yeah, just really stand out for like a D player at least.
Sweet.
Yeah. Look, I 100% agree with what Trader had to say. Then, like, Echo and Cyber are probably my two standout players. They're the ones that I sort of really remember the most. Echo purely for their pure like drive and wanting to do better. And as I said about Cyber, like I was learning a lot when I was coming up against them in Maze, and just looking at how they were playing or holding and just trying to understand that. So yeah, they're my two standouts.
Yeah, happy days. Well, you know, best of luck to these players and their continued laser sports journeys. And yeah, we'll hope to see you guys at you know, another competition at some point in the future. All right, we'll move on to 9th place now. We have the Nameless, the last of the two teams that got even with their predictions. So they were predicted 9th, got 9th. Jeez, how do you pronounce that top name? Anyone got it for me?
Dikaiopoulos.
Yep. Dikaiopoulos, Insomnia, Nitro, Paxo, and Big Boss Dog. I can pronounce that one. Yeah. Who wants to take away this team?
I'd probably start off again.
Connor,
Yeah, because I mean, in all honesty, from what I've gathered out talkings with the various players on this team, it seems like they have a very similar attitude and mentality to what the Hen House did, with them coming in with sort of the expectation that they weren't going to place very high, using it more as a learning experience, especially for the players Insomnia and Dikaiopoulos. So Insomnia was the captain for this team, which usually would have been Dicopolis. That's something that he's more akin to doing with the lower level players. But they were just sort of trying to use this experience more to get like that experience at just sort of managing other players, which could be really useful for them personally with nationals this year. But Nitro and Paxo, Big Boss Dog, especially him, like just making like, how long has Nitro been around, Popeyes?
She's one of those old school players. Like I think she came to Bendigo even.
right.
But one of those players who, you know, isn't playing every week, like comes in and out of the scene throughout the years. But she's been around forever, yeah.
Yeah, but at least for Paxo and Big Boss Dog, just getting them more exposure to these sorts of levels of competition that we're playing, and then developing themselves as players is really good for them as a whole. Like Paxo, after coming back from this tournament, has definitely played the best I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, wicked. Are any of these players going to be appearing at Zoltak in Hobart?
Yeah, so Insomnia and Dika. So he's actually registering as just Dika to just skip the whole name confusion.
Yep, fair
But
enough.
they will be playing with the Raptors under my team.
Sick. Is that a full Dunedin team?
Full
Yeah,
five.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, I guess to wrap up the team trader, who was your standout player for the team, and what points of improvement would you give to these guys?
I guess the standout player for me would probably have to be Dicopolis. Just really good player all around. He generally knows, at least personally, what he needs to be doing at whatever point in the game to be doing something that's actually meaningful for the game.
Yeah.
I guess something that they would probably need to work on, at least, is just sort of similar to what the Hen House needed, which was just sort of knowing what to do in those sort of critical moments where your main plan isn't really working out and you need to try and pull something else to either get a win or either just, you know, place you out. Because it seemed like once their strategy wasn't working, they just pulled something random out of the box and didn't really pan out for them. Seems to be running around a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
If anyone else wants to sort of jump on that.
I can definitely add something onto that, and that was I did end up getting a chance to talk to Nitro on day 2, and day 1 they definitely felt maybe a little bit all over the place, and then day 2 they really seemed to, you know, find their niche and come together. And Nitro just really said, yeah, we've worked out a few kinks, and I think they ended up at I believe they climbed to 8th and then got knocked down in Ascension. So could have been a different comp if they had found their feet a little bit earlier.
Popeyes, have you got anything you'd like to add for the Nameless?
Yeah, I'll just shout out Big Boss Dog. He was he's our Invercargill side op, last minute replacement.
Oh yeah.
Literally booked hotel and flights with a week's notice, kind of been cheap. Never had played any sort of competitive format before. I know Josh and Nathaniel drove down from Dunedin, give him a bit of a lesson. So he would have had about I don't know what that would have been, 2-3 hour lesson in his home site. I'm not even sure if they would have been able to set up the formats correctly. And then he came up and he played every event, right? He was going hard. It was awesome to have him there. Seemed like he was having a blast, and we can't wait to go down to his site in about a month's time and see what that's about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a certified big boss dog moment, huh? You don't get
Oh,
called
hell
big
yeah.
boss dog for no reason.
Yeah.
No,
That
that's
was
really
great to
cool.
have him
Really
there.
exciting to have side ops getting like excited and involved, right?
For sure. Yeah, it's huge for us.
Any last notes from anyone about the Nameless before we move on?
Good for me.
Yeah, we're good.
All good here.
Alrighty. Moving on to our 8th place team, we have Space Groove. So this was the second of first of our two big movers of the tournament. So they were predicted first, and they finished in 8th place. I'm gonna wager there's a story behind this, but we'll find out in a sec. On the team we have Moldy, Dari, Trader, Tagura, Jam Man. Just to point out, Moldy finished off the tournament with the second highest average score and the highest destroys per game average as well, and also the second highest score ratio. So Moldy's definitely shot a lot of people and shot a lot of bases. I guess Trader would make sense again for you to talk about this team. Yeah, take it away.
Yeah, so I'll start off with a very critical piece of information about this team, and is probably the reason why we were so low. So during game 4 of the round robin, Dari managed to actually injure themselves much harder than Roosters, to the point where they were unable to play for the rest of the tournament, and we were 4 players for that point onwards.
Oh, that's pain and suffering. I didn't realize. That sucks.
So essentially, hold on, if I go back to, I had some notes for this which I've just lost. Here we are. So it's really hard to judge how we would have done because of this water factor, but at least pre-injury we just managed to work out our kinks. So we did have a bit of a slow start in the round robin, coming second, pulling the third every now and then, but after those 3 games we started just coming first for the rest of that night. And then really unfortunate after that injury that we had to basically play with 4 people. And yeah, post injury the strategy basically was either one or 2 things that we would do, and both of them essentially had Moldy, Jono running off, just making sure that he was doing what he needed to do to get points, which very much contributes to how well he did in the maze at least. So myself, Tagora, and Jam Man would often sit together on either a turtle defense with just a dump later on in the game, or we would just dump straight off the bat and hope to just make it a high base game for all of our things that we were doing. And it almost worked. I feel like in our last Ascension game that we played about as well as we could have done with 4 players. It just obviously wasn't enough. And it's a bit of a shame because you never know how I think we truly could have done in this competition otherwise. But it is what it is, so.
That's so unfortunate. I think you guys have done a good job to, if that's the case, playing with 4 for most of the tournament and the last day, done a good job to stay in 8th place, I reckon. It's a hard job for any team, even a team of good players, to be able to pull any wins with 4 players. Well, yeah. What was it an injury in a game for Dari, or was it outside of a game, or what happened?
Yeah. So in a game, Dari accidentally tripped over someone's leg and fell really hard, and yeah, just their leg was too messed up to be able to continue, much to her disappointment. She tried, believe me, she tried so hard to get into all these games that she wasn't able to play. It just wasn't meant to be.
Well, that sucks. I got nothing else to say about that. Jeez. Well, Sega and Popeyes, have you got any things to point out, or things you'd like to mention about this team?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, as we've kind of touched on, this could have 100% been a completely different comp had Dari not injured themselves. And I'm really sorry to hear that you really did write yourself off towards that. It was because honestly, Dari was playing insanely well from side events and team games. They were standing out. I think everyone mentioned that.
4th in solos, right? Is that what I'm reading here?
I believe so.
Yes, they did come forth in solos.
Yes.
But yeah, just looking at this team, I mean, they actually ended up beating Devils, so my team, on day 2 with a 4-man. So, and that was by a couple of 100 points. And yeah, Moldy was coming out of that game very happy with himself. So, but honestly, just looking at this team and just breaking it down real quick, like. You've got Moldy, a seasoned Cobras player. Trader has obviously been around in the NZ scene for 6 years. Is it, my man?
Yeah, at least 6 years.
So he's
Haven't even counted myself actually. I think it's like close to 8.
so very experienced. And then so we touched on Dari and Tagora. And Jaman. Tagora's actually just from I saw a post. I think he's been bumped up to a C.
Yes, that's correct.
And Holmes, I reckon if we see Tagora in Nats in a couple of years' time, he's got the wax build. So if he can really if he can work out his play, his positioning and his timing and just how to use his height, he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with down the track.
Y'all need to share these bloody tall, lanky, bloody extendo arm gadget man people around. We're all bloody short asses in Adelaide, other than there's a couple big boys, but they need to get shared around. This isn't fair. Yeah, that's very exciting. It's always really cool to see new players with just like raw talent, coming through, learning from, their more seasoned players get to nationals and they're just like, oh wow, geez, this guy's pretty good for a rookie. It's always really fun seeing that. Popeyes, did you have any tidbits you'd like to add for Space Groove?
Yeah, I mean, not much to add. Like, definitely would have been a top 3 contender if Dari hadn't injured herself. Every player on this team is a good pickup at their grade, right? And then yeah, even they beat our team as well with 4 people. They were still scary. It's always a pain in the ass playing games when there's a 4-man team in there because the meta changes a little bit. But yeah, the force to be reckoned with for sure. It's a bit of a shame for the comp overall.
Yeah, that's really upsetting. Are all of these players going to be at Zoltec?
Just
Trader,
myself
right?
and Moldy.
Oh yeah, Moldy, of course. Yeah.
No,
Dari has been before. I think she
Okay.
wanted to go this year, right? But maybe prioritizing some of the stuff next year in NZ.
Yeah. Well, did anyone have any last little bits they'd like to talk about Space Groove before we move on?
Not sure how, I guess, important this is in the grand scheme of things as to how well we did, but we did actually have a higher average score than the 2 teams above us in the placement, if that means anything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for you to win a game as 4, there needs to be a point where you, normally there's a point where you need to dump, and if there's a point where you're dumping, then your scores, if you execute it well, should be high. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. All right.
That checks out.